back. We're looking at the year 2015, the positives and the negatives. How would you rate the year 2015? My guests have talked about the elections having its highs and its lows. Mr. Oladinde Ario believes that the lowest point for the election for him was the postponement owing to the situation in the Northeast. But Mr. Oba believes that it went well. Ultimately, the incumbent president handing over to the winning president, that has set an example for the other countries on the African continent. But then we moved on to the economy and they seem to be in agreement. Again, send your tweet to face@channelstv.com or at Nelta. We were still looking at the year 2015. We're coming back, still on the economy. I think Mr. Ario has something to say.
Perhaps I have an issue with the medium-term expenditure framework.
That he says is good.
That he said is good. When we come to the budget for next year, we have a budget of which 2-point-something trillion naira is going to be sourced from borrowing, okay? And this is a budget again that we are servicing debts with a little bit over 1.8 trillion naira. When you add all of this together, we may most likely end up next year incur heavier debt servicing sums. So where will this leave us? Especially in the face of one, dwindling oil revenue, two, the exchange rate now will not make importation rosy. We may have less of importation. That means the customs will earn less revenue, okay, by way of tariffs and all of that. So I just want to believe, and very truly too, that the government really has deeper understanding of how these things are going to play out, because nothing must go wrong. Otherwise, we'll be in for a tougher time that we've gone through in 2015. Because I couldn't go home for Christmas. Because I had a lot of people back home telling me they've not paid their son's daughter's school fees for the previous time.
You're worried that if you come home,
I should come to pay those ones as well as pay for their future, that is January 2nd now, 3rd. Schools will resume some places, they got bills to pay. There are people who could not eat during this period. A particular family, I won't mention their name now, they had to call me after I led my radio program that, look, this is their situation. We had to do something. So this, again, gives me cause for concern. The economy is still an issue. And something more concrete, more definite, sort of thinking outside of the box, need to really be put on the table and be executed to the letter.
Mr. Oba, the medium-term expenditure framework that you say is good and
no,
encouraging.
I said it was the
encouraging.
I said it was the first opportunity, the first opportunity we had to be intimated with the policy direction, economic policy direction of this government. He is even talking next year. I am one who believes that a number of things are not done right now. Look, in this present budget, apart from, say, the recruitment of 500,000 teachers, which ultimately will translate 500,000 teachers for primary school, which ultimately in the long term, say 10 years down the road, will translate into, it will naturally reflect positively in our educational system, because I would ordinarily have thought that a government, the first government in the political history of the political economic history of Nigeria that will be putting in place a welfare program, I would ordinarily have thought that they will use the welfare program as a skills acquisition and enterprise empowerment incentivization program. We will give you this money. For the first 6 months, you take that money. The last 6 months, you must go and find a trade or skills, this thing, to learn. It could be in agriculture, it could be in building and construction, where you have so many trades. It could be in auto maintenance and repairs, where you have about 16 trades. It could be in IT, where you have a plethora of trades. So Because we must also not run into the cul-de-sac that nations in Europe found themselves with a cradle to the grave welfare system, which at a point made people 3 generations, 4 generations to be dependent on those. So welfare must be applied with the objective of using it to galvanize a positive predisposition in people to acquire marketable skills and be entrepreneurially empowered.
But you also know that the vice president is the chair of the National Economic Council.
Look, we've passed that road before. A minister whereby the same coordinating minister went and dipped her hands into recovered looted funds, unappropriated by the National Assembly as stipulated by our constitution, and they expended over $300 million and about 5 point something whatever million pounds of that money.
Newton.
And painfully enough, my brother,
she work on,
she released the letter is in the public space.
I just don't want him to feel like we're ganging up against him.
Looks like the two of you are ganging up against him.
I've lived in about 3 liberal democracies in my young life. And in those liberal democracies, United Kingdom, Germany, and, fled with Holland a little bit, in all those liberal democracies, if you miss the economic point, you remember that dictum, is the economy stupid? If this government does not realize that the primary responsibility it owes the Nigerian public is to redefine the economic circumstances of this country and get us on the prosperity trajectory, they will get a whipping, a major electoral whipping for it in the next election. And that is coming from somebody who also expended his valuable resources supporting this government coming to power. They must get it right. No 2 ways about it. It's the economy. You know that Clintonian, 3 months before the American electors voted between George Bush, the father, and Clinton, George Bush was on a 90-something% rating immediately after the 92 Iraq war. But because the economy was tanking, the Clinton campaign manager then came up with that dictum. It is the economy is stupid. If you don't get it right at the economic level,
nothing.
You can defeat Boko Haram, you can listen. It's my pocket, darling, my pocket. That's what matters.
Let's look at sports.
Oh, sports has been very fantastic here, relatively. At least if we were to look at our contemporary history, we won the World Cup. We can.
2 World Cups. Oh, we won the World Cup.
We won the African Cup.
Yeah.
In
and we are good to go for Olympics.
And the Nigerian won the World Chess Championship. Yeah. This thing. A Nigerian mathematician too solved the mathematical problem that's been existing for more than one round something years, over a century, and won more than $1 million for it. Oh boy. You can, in the world of sports, we should be. Are you matching with me? Are you matching with me?
Because it looks like this edition of Face Off is just.
Okay, now we're going to move away from. Let's not talk sport. Let's not talk sport. Let's not talk sport. Now let's look at security still. The president gave the military a deadline of 31st December, which is just 20 some hours away from now. To the extent that we have been told, I have not been to Sambisa myself anyway, but I have been told that the Boko Haram forces have been annihilated, absolutely routed in Sambisa forest. I want to believe it. You remember that we once said it here, that they needed to expand the security architecture to accommodate local intelligence gathering, either covertly or overtly. in a way that,
They've started doing that now.
yes, in a way that what we are now witnessing, the ceaseless bombing of soft targets, will not come up. The previous government failed to do that. And between May and today, I would have expected the present government to have critically examined that, okay, and do something in that regard. This Christmas holiday was a disaster in Maiduguri and somewhere in the Madagali in Adamawa State. Those are truly, low points.
Without discountenancing the importance of some of the facts is marshaled, I think if one were to take a panoramic look at the general coloration of the security situation, I would ordinarily have moved it down from red that it was before. And thank God he's a security strategist. He will better identify with the metaphor, the color metaphor I'm going to be using now. I'll move it down from red, not necessarily to green, it's not yet to uru, but something vacillating between yellow and
orange.
But you see, the good thing is that we are now talking in Nigeria, not having that ugly black flag of those God-forsaken Boko Haramists flying on any patch of our territory.
So in a way, there's a positive there.
He has agreed with me. He has agreed with me.
Yes,
That,
agreed with
Oh,
you.
yes, it is a positive
I said
development.
this edition of Wisdom is just,
but okay,
it's just
now-
a gallop.
now-
No,
now
but we
let's
do have
disagree.
to go.
No, let's disagree.
We do have to go.
It's about time we wait.
we
No,
have
just
to
about
go.
time we left.
We have-
About time we left.
We do have to go. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Olade Indiario, a political affairs analyst. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you too for
And
inviting
Mr.
me.
Bola Oba, public affairs analyst. Thank you
Always
for coming on the show. But
stimulating
before
me.
I let you go, you would say your closing remarks real quickly. So since you
wow,
started first, let me start with you.
Okay.
It is not a uru in many respects. Nigeria is a battered nation politically, socioeconomically, but you know what? The year 2015 will resound in our political history as a year worthy of being celebrated.
All right, thank you.
Yes, it's been rough, it's been neat, it's been tidy, it's been dirty. All the same, we have cause to say we've done very well. However, the sudden killing of civilians by armed policemen is a dark spot.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to thank you so much for letting us be.
Armed soldiers. Let's forget. Let's
Armed
forget.
policemen too.
Okay.
In Ketu.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, it's not a
the
laughing
Inspector General,
matter. It's
the Inspector General
it's a
of Police,
tragic one,
the Inspector General of Police is very crossed with that, and is reviewing how police men will be accounting.
We really have to go. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, our viewers at home, for letting us come into your dwelling places. Till we'll bring you another edition of the show. Bye-bye.